I don't know if you know this, Daniel.
I know many things, but
You
tell
know
me
many.
something new.
I'm going to
Tell
tell
me
you
something
something
new.
new.
Okay.
What if I was to tell you that the best recruit in Georgia, the best recruit in the nation that resides in Georgia, is coming to Georgia, and now people like Florida can't claim to have more recruits from Georgia than Georgia, or the highest recruit from Georgia, because, oh, that's right, we have him. He's in the fold. We're talking about that and more next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, brought to you today by the fine folks over at Birddogs.
Wearing them right now.
More about them in a second. More about what Clint's wearing right now in a second. But for this episode, Clint, we're going to talk a little recruiting. Georgia got a new commitment. I'm sorry, does today end in Y?
It does.
Then Georgia got a new commitment today. Georgia went ahead and took another player.
Let's roll that out.
We take who we want, and everyone else gets the scraps.
And if we don't want him and your school gets him and then puts our name on a header like he chose you over us, he had a conversation with Kirby.
We're used to that.
And Kirby said, nah, we're good. We don't want anything like that.
We're good with that.
Fine.
So we're going to talk recruiting today, but the lead story is not a new recruit coming to Georgia. It is, in fact, a recruit that's been in the fold for quite some time, Dylan Raiola, but making some news earlier this week, as it came out that he is, in fact, transferring schools.
He's getting on over.
He's coming home early, is what we call that. He's coming on home to Buford High early. Now, this is interesting for several different reasons, and we're going to kind of go through all of these reasons today.
Just a heads up to the 199 that's used to this. If you're new to the podcast, thanks for listening, downloading, subscribing, YouTube and audio. It feels to me that this is going to get froggy here in a hurry on this podcast. It's Friday. We're talking right. It's going to get froggy in a hurry. Okay, but I digress.
There may be some amphibious nature to this particular episode. Now, listen. Let me tell you reason number one why this is significant for Georgia, and this should be the primary reason that everyone is excited about this. It is exciting news. If you're a Georgia fan, Dylan Raiola transferring to Buford High is exciting news.
It is.
It's exciting news first and foremost because he is, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get the terminology correct, Clint. So correct me if I misstep
the way that you're using it.
He is what they say all dog. That's what.
Yeah, no, you used that correctly.
He is all dog. He is not going anywhere. He's not going to any other schools. He's not interested in looking around. He's not interested in being courted by other schools.
No.
He's all dog. Ryan Puglisi, also all dog. They both are all dog. But if you were one of those people that were like number one player in the country, number one quarterback, best player in America, recruited by every school under the sun, Lincoln Riley, is he going to swoop in and get in this kid's ear? All this. None of that stuff is happening. No. Dylan Raiola said, I want to get as close to campus as I possibly can. I want to get as close to Kirby Smart as I possibly can. I want to attend as many games in Athens next year as I possibly can, all of which has implications, which we'll talk about as we move forward in this podcast, of why you should be excited. But the primary reason you should be excited is that this only serves to solidify what we already knew to be true about Dylan Raiola, which is that he coming to Athens, Clint.
No, he ain't written. He's not leasing. He's purchasing. It's signed.
Moving in.
He's moving in. The mortgage has been pen-inked signature. This is what it means. This is big. And there's a lot of people out there that want to do negative reviews of a kid moving across the country in high school for college, NIL, money, yada, yada, yada. let me just dispel that before we get to segment 2 and segment 3. We're talking about recruiting as well as the implications of this. Let me dispel a couple things. Dylan Raiola has come out and said himself, Daniel, this is not conjecture, which prognosticators and gurus do all the time in college football.
Well, if you can't make a conjecture, Clint, what's the point?
What's the point? If I have the ability to type something and then publish it, and it's
then
true,
people just click on it,
and that's my job,
click.
right? No, he has come out and said, I could have gotten more money elsewhere. So, okay. Well, that's his words, not ours. And he said, I'm not chasing after the money because I know that I will be getting more. Because
when's the money going to come?
More money is going to come later in the form of an NFL contract. That's where it's going to come later.
Well, he wouldn't have. There's no basis for him to believe that Georgia could provide him that because Georgia hasn't gotten anybody paid in the NFL recently.
No. Whoa. But what if I said they got more people paid than any other program the last 3 to 5 years, Daniel? See, that'd
Sounds
be something.
like some UGA homer made that up.
I made it up.
Statistic.
I make up all of.
You can make these statistics say kind of whatever you want them to say. Clint.
You know what? Let me do the research. I'll come back.
Well, why don't you do the research? That's the UGA homer I'm talking about.
Speaking of coming back after research, we're going to come back right after this. But first, I want to let you know about Birddogs. Birddogs.
There it is.
Little
pause for dramatic effect there.
We're trying our best to do the.
You know what? Sometimes we're not good, but sometimes you don't realize this unless you get to see behind the curtain. Sometimes we're too good.
Pregnant pauses are good.
In that situation, it was a case where you boys were just a little too good. We were on top of it a little too much.
Let me tell you about Birddogs. Birddogs are the best shorts on planet Earth. How do I know? Because I'm wearing them currently. They're fantastic. They're gorgeous. Daniel has some. Daniel was ahead of the game before I was ahead of the game.
I'm in there.
He was calling me stupid and moronic, which not a lie.
His words, not mine.
But I'm no longer moronic about Birddogs because I wear them, because Birddogs are fantastic. They are breathable. They are light. They have an inner lining. If you don't think inner lining is what you need, you clearly have not had Birddogs. Sincerely.
And they look great, Clint.
They look fantastic.
There are people wearing gym shorts. There are people wearing gym shorts out there all day, every day. Like they're not. Like they were raised in some sort of a barn. These adult men out here just wearing gym shorts.
Get rid of the circa 1998 basketball shorts.
And one called, and they don't want you wearing their material anymore.
Get rid of the Jinkos. But Birddogs is neither of that. Birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege for your Yeti-style tumbler with every single order. Birddogs.com, the best shorts. You won't want to take them off, I promise. Birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. I've never been told we do our job too good until just now, Daniel. So thank you for telling me.
Too good. It's too good. Those are Zach's words, not mine. Now, let's talk about other reasons why Dylan Raiola coming to Georgia is important. I mentioned he's in Buford. Number one, that's a place that Georgia has had a bit of trouble recruiting. Some would say Georgia's had a little difficulty getting in the door. Over at Buford, there's some wild speculation on the deep Georgia interwebs about how coaches at Buford have it out for the University of Georgia and recruit players away from Georgia and all this nonsense.
Sure.
What do you think the number one? No, let me ask you this, Clint. Now you're not from Georgia.
No.
You don't know a ton that comes to Georgia high school football. Let me ask you this: any good players over there at Buford High?
Well, I don't know. There seems to me, if I were to kind of just do a broad...
Yeah, just broad strokes here.
Broad strokes.
Good players?
Daniel, yes or no? A lot of
good players. Good players.
Lots of good players. One of which, KJ Bolden, who is a major target.
Now, that's interesting. Now, do you think that playing with the number one player in the country who's attending the University of Georgia... If you're someone who's considering Georgia, do you think that would be not just for guys like KJ Bolden who are this year's class, but I'm talking about the juniors, the sophomores, the freshmen. Do you think that's going to be, I don't know, as they say, advantageous for Kirby Smart and company?
Imagine just in the locker room getting ready for practice, and you hear your quarterback talking on the phone. The quarterback says, "Hey, coach, thanks so much. I got to go. Got to get ready. I'm late to the field. And he's like, okay, hang up the phone. And you're down the row from him, and he says, who are we talking to? Well, that's Coach Smart. Coach Smart was just checking on me, see how we're doing, see what's going on. Oh, hey, next time, do you want to hop on the phone with him? I'm sure he'd love to talk to you. I'm sure I
love
talk
to
about it every
chat.
single day. Let me. I don't think I'm a problem.
I'll text him now.
Hey, hold on. What? You got a link you could send me? Your film is out. Yeah. This is going to be incredible.
It's a nice little partnership.
Having somebody in the locker room. We got major targets already in the senior class, as well as continuing on. This is just going to be another stay cold for Kirby, a little pipeline, if you will.
It's going to pay dividends. Not only that, but we mentioned proximity to Athens. How many games is Dylan Raiola going to attend this fall in Athens?
All of them.
What about the recruits on official visits, Clint? Is it going to be good if their official visit includes some FaceTime with the number one player in the country, the number one quarterback in the country, who's a rock-solid commit to the University of Georgia? Is that going to – do players have any influence over other players when it comes to recruiting? Richard LeCount called, and he wanted to know the answer to that question.
We said this a couple of months ago, maybe, or a couple of weeks ago, as we were pursuing Raiola. We talked about that very special class that put Kirby and Georgia over the edge to get them up into the 2017 national championship game, and now the run that we are on. And it took a handful of guys coming together and making that Christmas Day video in which everybody, just one after the other was saying, yeah, what else do you want on the shopping list? We'll go get it for you. And they got it, and they brought it to Georgia. This is very similar to that. And so, yes, players wanting to play with the best players and wanting to play at the best facilities. Okay, so we have the best facilities. That's not
something
arguable. We have the best coach.
That's not anyone's arguing that.
Okay. We have the best last 3 years combined.
Well, no, that's something.
Okay. And now we have the best classes that were top 3. Now we're talking top 1, and the best offensive weapons. Oh, Kirby can do defense, but he can't develop quarterback. Oh, no.
So you have the best player who plays the most premium position being recruited to the best program.
Yep.
Coached by the best coach.
Yep.
In the best city.
Best college city. Yep.
On the best planet in the solar system.
Correct.
And that's
conference.
That's what we have.
And again, like we talked about the first segment, the most draft picks getting paid.
Dylan Raiola, you might say to yourself, what are we talking about an 18-year-old kid switching high schools for? Yes, on the one hand, you're right. It's the off season, and we're talking about some things that
I said I was going to get froggy.
Are a bit of nonsense right now.
Amphibious things are hitting.
Yeah, that's correct. But on the other hand, this is a significant piece of news for the University of Georgia, as well as another significant piece of news that came across the line this week. Clint, Georgia got themselves a new commitment.
Ooh, come on now.
And we'll talk about that right after this.
New commitment is to be had. It isn't the full.
Now tell them about it, Clint.
I will tell you, new commitment is in the fold in what we are doing. Quintavious Johnson.
There he is.
Commits to the Dogs. He says, sign me up. Let's go. Let's roll. How do we do this thing? He commits this week, 6'4", 255 out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's playing with all of those Atlanta recruits and all of that talent. You know it. I know it. We are very well aware of the depth, the absolute treasure trove that is Atlanta.
Yep.
And he's over there playing with huge cats, big time recruits, getting playoff bound. Another defensive line. That's 3 defensive linemen. No, we have
the defensive line class is starting to get serious. There are some serious things happening.
Okay. Again, Kirby Smart and company, what they do is they have a rubric.
What do they do?
And they just hit copy and paste with who you are, the best talent at the position that they need, and the right type of talent for the position that they need and they desire, because it's their system. They go out and look at our linebackers right now. We got 3 more who are carbon copies of what 3 we had last time, who are carbon copies of what we had
about the
before.
next 3?
And
what will they be like?
3 are just like it.
What about the safeties? What do we do with the safety position?
Just gonna keep on As a matter of fact, some may argue they get better. That's wild. Because it's true, because it's actually on the field production. Quintavious Johnson, 3-star on some, 4-star on other sites. And again, this is, you shouldn't care, I shouldn't care. And yes, we have the most talent. We have Dylan Riley, we have a quarterback, we have all of these things. I get that. But specifically when we're talking about defense, okay, I don't know how to say this and say two things are true at the same time, but we say this all the time. Recruit and ranking is important. But with Kirby Smart and on the defense, I actually don't care.
You don't need it.
I don't care. It's nice.
Why do you not care, Clint? What do we have instead of the recruiting gurus analysis of who's good and who's not?
We have Kirby Smart and company's analysis of who is good, and they know defensive talent better than any single recruiting expert. Let me put it this way. If a recruiting expert was so good at their job that they just were able to get talent and assess them perfectly. Do you know what colleges would be doing for those people?
Yeah, it feels like, how much do recruiting analysts get paid versus how much analysts in the Georgia football program get paid? Who do you think makes more?
If you are a recruiting guru and you are just knocking out of the park, Kirby Smart is going to come and say, how about you just come work for us and do what you're doing to these services?
Just watch film,
and I'll give you $250,000. How about that? Yeah. Can we do that? But they're not. Kirby is. That's why he's getting paid that, and much more than that. And his analysis,
he gets paid that weekly.
He gets paid whatever he wants. Okay,
that's correct.
Okay. So this kid, if Kirby's taking him on defensive line, and he's the third this week to do so, it just tells me everything I need to know about this kid. He's going to be a monster. He's different than the other two. The other two are a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier-handed. This seems to be much more speed. The other two much more.
Play him a little bit more on the outside.
Play him on the edge. A little bit more on the edge. Weak side 3 or 4 tech out there. That's my guess on him. But joins the fold, and again, this recruiting class, just Daniel, it's going to be the best Kirby Smart's ever had.
It's getting crazy when you look at, I mean, the volume that Kirby has so early in the process. I can't wait to see how many of these kids enroll early. I can't wait to see how many of these kids are on campus in January during bowl practice. Like, you realize that. Like, you realize we're going to be watching all of these kids. We're going to be watching film of DeMarcus Riddick prepping for the college football playoff game that we're in. That kind of class, when you get them in this early, that's why it's good to have 20 commits and not 7 right now, because you're going to get a lot of these guys on campus early. You're going to get your pick of every player in the country, which Georgia obviously does, and you're going to get the guys that you want. You're going to get them signed. You're going to get them committed. You're going to get all those NIL things ironed out, and you're going to get them on campus as soon as possible, because the sooner they get on campus, Clint, the sooner they get to work with the strength staff, the sooner they get to work with Coach Shu, with Coach Bobo, with the entire gamut of the Georgia assistants, as well as the GOAT himself, Kirby Smart. And so, very excited for Quintavious Johnson. I think he brings something unique to this class. I think he brings something this class doesn't currently have. And so, happy to have him on board, happy to have him fitting a role, and just exciting to see the Kirby Smart recruiting train just keep rolling seamlessly down the tracks.
It ain't stopping.
It can't be stopped, Clint.
It really, really can. Hey, this has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Daniel and I will be back next time talking more UGA football. We'll see y'all then.
See ya.